Pressed the Let's Go Live button, and so let's wait for the interweb interstream tubes to connect themselves all across the fruited plains of the internet. And we are waiting for the YouTube to connect to the Restream, to connect to the Facebook, to the Rumble. We've already been on locals for about a minute, but it looks like Rumble is that firing up. Shout out to Isle Paints over there with Vienti Kiss out over there on the chat. Shout out to Geo, Ronnie Cole. Zulu's on the program, and it means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group, located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about being compelled. That's the title of the thumbnail. We're going to go over to our mind map to get our bearings straight. And you can see we've got three big segments to attend to today. We're talking about a new order that came out from a federal judge in Arizona. Kind of surprising because we spent a big part of the program yesterday explaining this judge not taking action against the Arizona Ballot Watchers. Said, no, they can do it. It's free speech. They're allowed to do that. Not even a big deal. But then this judge came out and reversed himself and said, holy moly, this is the end of America. We're all going to die. And we've got an opinion that came out today, and it's kind of amazing, like how quickly this reversed itself. The judge actually ordered the people over at Clean Elections to post a specific message on True Social. Okay, so he said, you have to, when you get out of this courtroom, you go on your True Social account and you type this message and you post it out there. So you tell all your idiot, stupid followers how idiotic and stupid you are, and they know what the reality is coming directly from my mouth, the judge. All right, so that happened. And then they actually went and did post on True Social. And this was evidently a stipulated agreement, which means there may be some agreement to this, like these individuals wanted to post this stuff, and we'll see. We don't really know what the details are, but we are going to try to break it down because we have the order that came out from the Arizona Federal District Court, and we'll take a look at that. Now, simultaneously, Joe Biden is going to give us another speech about how all doomed we are. Apparently, he's talking tonight, like right now. He's trying to, overtake the show, evidently. But the White House doesn't get that many people on their YouTube channel. Nobody really watches over there. So we're not going to go over there and watch it. But he is warning that democracy is under assault. And so they've already pre-released some of his scripted speech. And so we'll read through some of that over from CNN. Democracy Docket is spiking the football. They say, perfect, we won this case. This means those ballot watchers have to get out of here. And so, of course, Mark Elias and the guys over at Democracy Docket are really excited about this. They say, yeah, look, Trumper Mel had to post this thing over on True Social. And so he's just, sort of gloating almost. He's like, yeah, look what we made them do. Okay, so this is what's going to be happening in America now. People are going to be using courts to force you to post certain things on the internet, starting with Mark Elias and Democracy Docket, evidently. And he's very excited about it, yeah. Okay, so we are going to check in with the Liberty of Lions. They withdraw, right? They are not set up to be at the center of a legal battle, so they've decided we're not going to participate in Operation Dropbox anymore. At least this comes over from the New York Times. So we'll check in on that. And then we'll take a look over at what's happening in Pennsylvania, because it's not only Arizona. We've got, election litigation flying all over the place. Every one of these is like a little skirmish. I'm having flashbacks to 2020 when we were doing the same thing. And it was the same states again. It was Arizona, Pennsylvania. We talked a lot about Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, all the same states. It's like round two of this crap before 2024 comes down the pike again. But in Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court out there said that there's a big bucket of ballots that there were questions about, of these ballots that had deadlines, or they had to be marked or dated before the ballots were sent in. Some people were saying that it didn't really matter if there was a date on it or not. So like you could send it in, I don't know, like 2 weeks after the election. Oh, well, we just found this one. We don't know when it was signed, stamped, certified, or any of those things, but we want to count it. And the Republicans obviously don't want to count that because it seems like it could be an invalid ballot. Well, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court gave us a ruling on that, which we will, of course, dig into. And the White House got asked by the media, are you guys planning for any election contingencies, like any election night contingencies? The last thing we want is insurrection number 3. We had one on January 6th. We had one at Pelosi's house. We don't want a third one. Americans do not trust the elections, evidently. Politico is reporting that only like 60% of Americans actually think that these things are going to go over very well, which seems to me like a low number. And so we'll check in on all of that. Before we turn over to Paul Mino got me in the locals chat. Damn it. All right. So Jim Jordan is also demanding that the DOJ preserve your records, because the Republicans might be in charge very, very soon. And when they are, they've promised, they've been telling us for a long time, we mean business this time. When we win, just go vote for us. McCarthy's, just go vote for us. And we'll get rid of those 87,000 IRS agents. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. We'll see. One of the things we're concerned about is whether the DOJ, the FBI, the garbage intelligence community, which continues to operate, it seems like, with impunity, whether there will be any oversight or recourse, in particular from the GOP, any oversight from the judiciary committees in either body, the House or the Senate. Nobody knows. But Jordan says that, yes, there's going to be. And he sent a letter over to Merrick Garland, which we will read through, and it's pretty comprehensive. And this is kind of a fun one, because on this channel, we've spent a long time reading a lot of Jim Jordan letters. I mean, he sends like a lot of letters, which is one of the most, I think, important things they do in Congress, is just draft letters and just send letters and just, oh, you didn't respond to my letter from March, and then you get to June. You didn't respond to my letter from April. Okay, you get to May, whatever. You just follow the thing, and there's no responses. They just send one right after another. And Jordan is like summarizing this. He says that there's a lot that I have asked for and you haven't given us, and so I need it all. Now, we also are going to take a look at a letter from the Democrats, because it's not only the Republicans that write letters, okay? The Democrats write letters too. And Zoe Lofgren wrote one. You may remember her from that fake, illegally constituted January 6th Select Committee, in my opinion, because it doesn't have the proper number of members on the body. She sent a letter over to the Capitol Police, and she said, hey, I need to know what you guys did on this Nancy Pelosi, Paul Pelosi Hammer time attack, because it's a big problem if we're having you guard our residences, and the Capitol Police, if you're really that incompetent, this is like 0 for 2, guys. You had insurrection number 1, now insurrection number 2. You're failing like 0 for 2. So she wants to know if there is going to be any recourse or what they're going to do. And we'll check in with Karine, because Karine is now asked, why do you hate Republicans so much? And she says, no. It's not all Republicans. It's only the Mega-MAGA Republicans. And so this is, they're still standing by the Mega-MAGA, which is, of course, a lot of fun. We had a response from her about whether they're still colluding with Facebook and the big tech platforms. Certainly seems like they are. She said, well, yeah, I mean, obviously we're committed to protecting you from yourself and misinformation. All from the White House. Before we wrap it up with some election stuff, Liz Cheney goes full Democrat. Now, if there was any doubt about this, I think this happened some time ago, but if there was any doubt, you can just eject that right now, because she came out and basically endorsed everybody except Republicans. She, as we know, in Arizona, said that she would run against Kari Lake, and Kari Lake is like, hello, right? What are you, nuts? She doesn't like Kari Lake, not going to support her, says she's an insurrectionist, she's a Trump acolyte, and she needs to be defeated. She then went over to Ohio and said that she supports Tim Ryan against J.D. Vance. And she's been doing this same story. She sort of is mad at Glenn Youngkin for supporting Kari Lake. She's mad at Ted Cruz for supporting what Ted Cruz supports. And we ask ourselves, why does she keep calling herself a Republican? Why is she allowed to get away with that? Kari Lake was on Tucker, said, thanks, Liz Cheney. I appreciate your anti-endorsement. It gave me the biggest fundraising haul of our campaign. Love you for that. Kari Lake was on stage with Steve Bannon. They had a nice little powwow here in Arizona, so we'll talk about that one. And then Hillary Clinton was on MSNBC, and she, was saying that, gosh, boy, oh boy, we are just on the verge of crumbling into an autocratic nation thanks to people like Donald Trump and his deputies. So as you can see, my friends, we've got a lot to get to. We do have some legal heavy lifting, some reading to get into today. We've got some letters from Congress, which of course we love and adore. But if you want to be a part of the program, the best place to do that, if you want to support the show, is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. That's where our community is chatting away. And we hang out after the show's over here and have a little bit of an after party. So if you'd like to join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com is a place to do that. You can also join on YouTube if you want to join and hit that membership button. You can get a lot of the same walk and talks that we publish, which is additional videos, some member-only videos for our community before and after the show. When the show ends here, the conversation continues. Now, I also am a lawyer, and so before we dive into everything, I want to thank you for your referrals to our team, the R&R Law Group located in Scottsdale, Arizona. An amazing team of people. We help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their cases, but beyond that, in their lives. And so we appreciate your referrals over to our team, 480-787-0394, online at rrlawaz.com. All right, my friends. Now, we have to get this puppy queued up so we can just get started and dig into this. And this one is a little bit, this is a little bit of a strange one. Quite the reversal. A federal judge in Arizona reverses himself. He had previously come out and said that the Arizona Ballot Watchers had some free speech protections. They were sitting out there, they were monitoring the public space, and the judge said, there's only so much I can do about this. Before, the judge held a hearing and then reversed himself. We've previously talked about this case, went through the judge's entire rationale for why he said that the ballot watchers had free speech. But suddenly, after a big extensive hearing that took place on Tuesday, November 1st, it went most of the day all the way up until about 5:30. The judge issued a ruling, came back out, and reversed himself in a pretty dramatic way, including requiring the individuals to post specific messages on True Social, which we'll see from this order. The temporary restraining order was granted against Clean Elections United States of America, listed as defendants sued by the Arizona Alliance for Retired Americans. This opinion and order coming out of the District of Arizona Federal Court, 4 pages, and we spent the time explaining what got us here. But after a big long hearing, this is what the judge decided. The judge says, for the reasons stated on the record, it is ordered granting the parties stipulated restraining order. And that's a very important word there, stipulated. That means that both sides are sort of agreeing to this. They're actually having a conversation about this. It's an agreed upon order. Now, we weren't there on the record. There are, I'm sure, transcripts, and a lot of this stuff I'm presuming was on the record. There's a possibility that some of this stuff was done off the record, but I would guess that it was done on the record. But it sort of is meaning that both sides have agreed upon an outcome on this. Now, why might one side agree to something they don't want to do? Well, because of leverage. That's because one side has more power than the other side. And they say, if you don't do this thing, things are going to get a whole lot worse for you. So why don't you just agree to this outcome, and we can just save each other a whole bunch of time. So it could go one way or the other, right? Clean Elections could say, we've got all this power and leverage, and so we're going to do what we're going to do, or we're going to make your lives miserable, Arizona Alliance for Retired Americans, or vice versa. Arizona Alliance for Retired Americans could say, we've got the backing of, millions of dollars of lawyers and legal money and whatever, and we're going to sue you. Or if you don't agree to the stipulated order, they could theoretically say, we're going to sue all of you individually, right? We're going to come after you and you and you, and we're not here to deal with your organization anymore. We'll just go right after you, right? So there's all sorts of threats that are being bandied about. And we saw this yesterday on the clip from Mark Elias, the founder of Democracy Docket, who said that if you violate the law, you're going to end up in court. And we said, that makes sense, right? Nobody's talking about violating the law here. Everybody's talking about complying with the law and just making sure the elections are conducted appropriately without any funny business going on. But they were very upset about these ballot watchers. They didn't want them there. And they had a big, long, extensive hearing. The judge originally said, there's nothing I can do about this. We fast forward like 24 hours. The judge does a total reversal. And here's what he says. Defendants, Clean Elections, their officers, their agents, their servants, employees, and everybody else they know or have ever talked to or even thought about are restrained from engaging themselves or training, organizing, encouraging, or directing others while monitoring the drop boxes to do any of the following. You see A, B, C, and D. We've got 4 items here, and this is saying that they're not allowed to do it. They're not allowed to show other people how to do it. They can't encourage it. They can't direct others to do it. So encouraging, posting on social media, giving somebody a high five at a coffee shop. You can't do anything connected to this. So it is taking that entire organization off the playing field. To do anything of the following, A through D. A, they are not allowed to intentionally enter within 75 feet of a ballot drop box or the entrance to the building where the drop box is located. Okay, well, that's not that big of a deal, right? They were sort of kind of doing that anyways, right? I think they were quite a ways away. All right. B, they cannot engage themselves or train or encourage or show or do anything to anybody that does the following: intentionally follow individuals delivering ballots to the drop box when such individuals are not within 75 feet of a drop box. So if other people, okay, so there's like the 75-foot buffer zone, but what about the people who are coming to the 75-foot buffer zone? Can they, if they're outside of the ballot drop box, force field, 75-foot force field, and somebody's walking up to the force field, can they intervene that person there and catch him there or her? No, because it's delivering ballots to the drop box while they're not quite there yet. Now, the same individuals, the court says, unless spoken to or yelled at first, they're not allowed to encourage, do anything remotely connected to speaking or yelling at an individual who the defendant knows, meaning clean elections, who they know is returning ballots to the drop box. And 2, who is within 75 feet of the drop box. So it's just conversation. Don't yell at them. If they yell at you, you can yell at them, but not vice versa. And then D, it says openly carry firearms within 250 feet of the ballot drop box, or visibly wear body armor within 250 feet of a ballot drop box. So we have the 75-foot force field. If people are approaching the 75-foot force field, can't touch them. But if people are within 250 feet of a ballot drop box, right? So you can exist anywhere between 75 and 250 feet in that buffer zone. So it's like we have like concentric circles, right? So the idea would be like you have, this is the ballot box. We draw that there. You have a 75 radius. This is going to look maybe problematic. But you have a 75-foot radius here that you are not allowed to go into. And then you have another circle on the outside that will sort of from this area to this area is 250 feet. And so you've got the difference where you cannot have any body armor. You can physically be in this area, but you cannot have any physical body armor or weapons or anything visible in that area. So if you do want body armor and all of that stuff, that's only okay outside this area. Otherwise, you can hang out in this area and you just can't do it with the body armor. Yeah, people are saying I did a nice job fixing what that could have potentially become. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Now, you can understand that this can be problematic, of course, because these areas are a little bit fluid and people are moving back and forth, and I'm sure they're not taping out a specific 250-foot radius and, what is 75 and what is body armor and who saw the body armor and all that stuff. So there's a contingency here. It says, but defendants shall not be in breach of this order, meaning the clean elections people, if they accidentally and unknowingly reveal a concealed firearm or concealed body armor, right? So there's sort of a contingency there. Now, they're saying, well, what if it was an accident? Judge says, look, if it's a real accident, I'm not going to hold you in violation of this order. And they said, well, we want that in writing. So put that in writing. So this is how this stuff works, right? There's negotiations back and forth. The plaintiffs go over to the defense and they say, well, hang on, we want you to do this. These distances we think are appropriate. And they say, well, what if there's an accident? So they go talk to the judge. The judge says, okay, I'll put this sentence in here. How does that work? Okay, great. The court continues. They say that clean elections, the defendants shall, within 24 hours of the date of this order, and this has already been done, post the following in a conspicuous place on Clean Election USA's website and on the Truth Social page. So you have a judge now who's ordering people to make posts on their Truth Social accounts, specifically at Trumper Mel, and leave it posted through the close of voting on Election Day 2022. The following must be posted on the account. The judge says, you must say, it is not always illegal to deposit multiple ballots in a ballot drop box. It is legal to deposit the ballot of a family member, household member, or person for whom you are the caregiver. Here are the rules for ballot drop boxes by which I ask you to abide. The judge says, the preceding statement should also be followed with a link to the Arizona Revised Statutes, which has the law associated to it. A copy of this temporary order and link also must be posted. So the judge says, you better get back there and you better type that into your Truth account. Now, this order says that the proceeding shall not prohibit Clean Elections from changing its name, its domain name, or anything else like that, as long as they post the same message through the close of voting. So now this goes back over to the plaintiffs, and they say, well, what if Clean Elections just like changes their name? Like, what if Trumper Mel just changes her name to Trumper Melody, all right, and then just reposts a bunch of this stuff? And the judge says, well, if they do that, well, if they can change it, but they've got to repost it exactly where they go. So they say defendant Melody Jennings, okay, that's the individual here, shall post on the Truth Social page Trumper Mel the following statement. So the judge says, you have to go tell your followers that you've been a no-no to them. It's almost like the Scarlet Letter. Remember that book you had to read when you were a kid? You've done something bad, and so you have to be branded as being an insurrectionary liar, misinformationer. You have to post the following statement and leave it posted through the close of voting day on your Truth account, saying any past statement that it is always illegal to deposit multiple ballots in a ballot drop box is incomplete. A family member, a household member, or a caregiver can legally do so, along with a copy of the entire Arizona law and a copy of the link to this order. Yeah, because the judge just thinks that everybody's just too stupid out there. You know, hey, your stupid Truth Social followers are so idiotic that, you know, they just do whatever you tell them to do. They have no idea what is true, what's fake, whatever. So I have to correct the record because that's what happens in this country now. Everybody just corrects the record. You know, we just have to go post something and fix this. Judge says defendant's agreement to the entry of this partial order shall not be construed as an admission by the defendants. Okay, so as I said, this is a stipulated agreement, which means that the defendants here, Clean Elections, they sort of agreed to this for some reason, right? They said, well, all right, maybe they were being threatened with personal lawsuits. Maybe the judge said, I am very unhappy with what I saw. Don't know exactly what happened yet, but they are agreeing to this, and then they went and posted it. So they are acquiescing on this to some degree. But they're not admitting that they did anything wrong, right? They're putting that in here. They're saying, all right, yes, we'll do this stuff, but none of this shall be construed as an admission by us that we've engaged in any of the activities that this order prohibits, or is this an admission that any of those activities would be contrary to the law? Okay, so they're saying, look, we'll do this stuff. We're not admitting we did anything wrong. It continues from the court. No person who has notice of this order shall fail to comply with it, nor shall any person subvert the order by sham, indirection, or other artifice. This order applies to their defendants, their officers, agents, servants, and anyone else in active concert or participation with them, Notwithstanding that, the defendants shall not be held liable or in contempt based solely on the violation of this order over whom the defendants do not have actual control. Right? So sort of breaking this out, saying, look, you're not liable for everybody else. The restraining order will go into effect immediately and shall remain in effect for 14 days. And the posts were completed. They complied with those orders. The judge says, it is further ordered that the court enters the temporary restraining order proposed and contested by the defendants. Furthermore, they are restrained from directing others or from engaging, organizing, or training or participating in active concert any of the following. In connection with a specific claim that individuals committed the F word based solely on the fact that they deposited multiple ballots in the drop box, post or online. Okay, they say, if this organization is believing that individuals committed problems, they shall not post online or otherwise disseminate images, recordings, any personal image about those individuals. Similarly, they can't post about their identity, any distinguishing features, their license plate, model, make, or car, or anything like that. Similarly, if they're within that 75-foot zone, they cannot take photos or otherwise record individuals. And it says that the defendants over at Clean Elections, similarly, shall cease and desist making false statements about Arizona revised statutes now through the end of Election Day. This is going to go into effect immediately, and it shall remain in effect for 14 days. Signed here by Michael T. Liberty, who had a very, very different take just a mere 24 hours ago. In fact, just 24 hours ago, he said that there were free speech concerns and protections that were very important to preserve, and that the individuals in this lawsuit had not demonstrated how a remedy could be appropriate to resolve this. Let's take a look at the court docket on this case to see if there's been anything new that popped out recently. Transcript request came in. We have minute entries that came in. Sealed declarations also are here. Now, here's the entry. Well, that was all yesterday. We covered all of that. There was a big hearing, and you can see the hearing took place from 12:14 to 5:31 p.m. yesterday. And the judge issued his ruling. So now that that has taken place, we see that the democracy docket folks are very excited about this. This is what the post looked like from Trumper Mel. Trumper Mel ordered to make this post on True Social. You see here, she did that on True Social under the account @TrutherMel, saying, AZ, it is not always illegal to deposit multiple ballots in a ballot box, blah, 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 blah. Says any past statement that it's always illegal is incomplete. A family member is legally allowed to do so. I have never stated otherwise, she says. See the attached statute. That's the law. Okay, so Trumper Mel complied. And Democracy Docket is very excited about this. Of course, spiking the football, saying, look what we made her do. Oh, yeah. Mark Elias is very happy, probably petting his dog vigorously. He loves his dog. There's pictures of his dog behind him, literally his dog. Democracy Docket says, as required by federal court order, Clean Elections USA Melody posted on True Social that there are multiple reasons why Arizona voters can legally return more than one ballot after her group baselessly accused individuals of being ballot mules. Right? That's Mark Elias, Democracy Docket. Okay, I've been pounding the table about this organization for 2 years now. The Republicans better get their act together, or they're going to continue to get steamrolled by the Democrat lawyers. Ugh. All right. So that's Democracy Docket. Now, after that all happened, Liberty of Lions also withdrew. Jack Healy from the New York Times posted this. He says that the Lions of Liberty came out with an update. The Lions of Liberty report to their organization. They say, as many of you know, we've been facing pending litigation due to Operation Dropbox. The hammer has unfortunately fallen. We, the Lions of Liberty, have been named in a federal lawsuit. True. Unfortunately, we were named with other organizations with whom we have no association and whose desire for law and order is much less than ours. Due to this fact and possible restraining orders, we are stepping down on the sponsorship of Operation Dropbox. This is an official stand down order. From this point going forward, there will not be any more organization from the Lions of Liberty. We are extremely grateful to all who stepped up and made our community proud. We are proud to have been a part of this op with you moving forward. Operation Dropbox is officially closed. The lawfare works, right? It's very damaging. It's very threatening to potentially face a lawsuit from a bunch of Harvard-trained lawyers who have endless funds and gobs of money to go after their political enemies. And so, of course, they are doing that, and it seems like it might be going to good effect. Unfortunately, the Republicans are still asleep at the wheel. Meanwhile, Biden is warning, now he's supposed to be speaking tonight. He's warning that democracy is under assault. He's calling for Americans to stand against political violence. He delivered a warning on Wednesday that Americans are under assault from election deniers, right? Who are running for office at all the top levels. Biden said, this intimidation, this violence against Democrats, Republicans, and nonpartisan officials is a consequence of lies told for power and profit. Lies of conspiracy and malice. Lies repeated over and over to generate a cycle of anger, hatred, and vitriol. Now, this is hosted by the DNC, not the White House, so it's a political hack speech, which we're not going to cover here. The setting of the speech near Capitol Hill is meant to reference the J6 attack, an attack that they cannot possibly let go. And now they're squeezing every bit of this out of the Pelosi saga as well. So that's what he's talking about today. And I was thinking about maybe going over there and jipping it, but not going to do that because it's going to be the same garbage. Instead, let's turn our attention to another very important ruling that came out of Pennsylvania. Remember that when we talk about elections, we've got all sorts of different buckets that people fall into, and there are all sorts of different ways that people say that votes should be done with integrity, or where voting should be conducted with enfranchisement. We want as many people to vote as kind of an interest of America. We want everybody to participate. This is democracy, baby. Get out there and make your voice heard. But if people are suppressed, well, they can't do that. And so we have to sort of find the balance. We also don't want to enfranchise people who shouldn't be participating in that stuff because they've got no skin in the game. So we have to balance integrity versus suppression and enfranchisement. And one of the things that we've talked about here a lot is there are many ways to tweak the rules. One of them is to adjust the deadlines of elections. Should it be held on the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th? Should you say that anything mailed by the 3rd counts, even if it comes in by the 9th? Should the whole thing be moved because of COVID and because people are hysterical? Should we minimize some of the voting requirements in order to go register? Do you need to actually sign a document, or can you just kind of fill it out on the internet? All sorts of ways this can work. And what happens if there's a mechanical problem? Okay, you're filling out your mail-in ballot. You study this, you fill it out, you study the candidates, you make a good effort to get it right, but you forget something. There's an undated portion of this thing. You mail it into Pennsylvania, and it lands after the election is over. Do they count that ballot because you sort of incorrectly filled it out? Well, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania ruled on this. The Republican Party of Pennsylvania suing the County Board of Elections, and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court issued a ruling explaining what to do with some problematic ballots. Decided on November 1st, 2022, a per curiam opinion from the court, meaning it's kind of the court's opinion. It's not any particular judge. Out of Pennsylvania, they say, on this first day of November, upon review of the briefs of the parties, meaning the Board of Elections, the Republicans, and friends of the court as amici, the petitioner's request for injunctive and declaratory relief is granted. Whoa, what does that mean? It means the Republican Party, as the petitioners, they get their request granted in part and denied in part. All right, let's make sure we understand what's going on here. The Pennsylvania County Board of Elections are hereby ordered to refrain from counting any absentee and mail-in ballots received for the November 8th general election that are contained in undated or incorrectly dated outer envelopes. Oh, yes. Remember that we had a lot of problems with this. What happens if there were issues with a big bucket of ballots that came in? What do we do with them? Can we just throw them out? Can we just count them? Do we have to set them aside and process them at a later date? In this case, they are not counting them on election night. Refrain from counting any of them on election night. Now, doesn't mean that these are going in the shredder, but at this moment, they're not going to be included in the final totals. So, interesting outcome on this. Now, the court is evenly divided on the issue of whether failing to count violates the U.S. law. 52 U.S. Code Section 10101, they say might be a federal statute that is problematic. So you can expect the feds maybe to step in on this. We'll see. We'll see if anything else happens. But the feds are, I would say, probably inclined to say that this is a violation of federal law. And the Supreme Court out of the Pennsylvania is sort of split on this. So they say, we hereby direct the Pennsylvania County Board of Elections to segregate and preserve any ballots contained in undated or incorrectly dated outer envelopes. So anything is just all of that, anything that's potentially problematic, they're just going to put it in a separate bucket. Very likely, right? This will continue to be litigated about in some way, shape, or form. And then we'll see whether or not those come back into the counts. So they tell us that the Republican National Committee, the RCCC, the Republican Party of Pennsylvania, all of them have standing. All of the other individuals, they're all booted out of there. They're dismissed with no standing. And we'll get some more formal opinions to follow. But Chief Justice Todd and Justices Donahue, they would find a violation of federal law. So they say, well, our opinion on this is if we don't count those votes, illegal. And if the other judges get their way, they'd say, no, it's no violation of federal law because they're invalid ballots. Now, I actually looked this up. I went over to the Pennsylvania Secretary of State website, and they show you the process there. And of course, probably most of us are not from Pennsylvania, but they have multiple ballots or sort of a multi-step process. You fill out a ballot, you put it in a secret envelope, then you put the secret envelope inside another ballot, and then you seal the ballot, and then there's a certification form on the outside of that ballot. So on the certification form, if they're not dating it, if it's improperly dated, one of the arguments is that, well, you can't confirm that that ballot was completed before the election took place. And what do you do about that? Because the last thing you want is, let's say, Oz beating Fetterman on election night, and then you have a bunch of people the next day after the election, suddenly filling out their ballots and sort of sending them in without a date or backdating them or something. What do you do? Now, if they backdate them, right, you could sort of have an issue with that with the postmark. But if it's not postmarked, you could have the argument that maybe the post office lost it or something before it lands, right? The voter didn't complete it. And so the argument might be you defer to voter intent and give them the benefit of the doubt and count the ballot. But the problem is that, right, now you have a mechanism by which somebody can close the gap. Somebody can just draft a bunch of ballots and fill in the deficit on election night, which, not saying that happened or anything like that ever before. All right, so take it easy. My YouTube censor gets squirrely when I start going down that road. But we also have some concerns in the election system in general. This poll, where'd this come from? Politico reports that Americans have a lot of distrust in their elections and the federal electoral system. According to a survey that came out from the Morning Consult poll, they say that 60% of voters continue to trust the federal election system. That's it. Only 60% of voters. Now, that trust figure rises to 65% when respondents were asked about their own state's election system. If you ask about the federal system, people say, no, 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 big problems. But here locally, things are pretty good. Unsurprisingly, there's a partisan divide. They say Democratic voters, specifically, they trust the systems. The Democrats trust it, 80 to 79% so-and-so, while Republicans are at 43 and 56%. Republicans much lower. And when it comes to potential challenges to next week's results, they say 46% of Republicans and 51% think the GOP in the states might challenge the results. Now, we talked about this on our morning walk and talk for members on locals, but it feels like that's pretty low, right? If 60% of people trust the election cycle, and let's say we fast forward 2 years and the Republicans win big time, or we fast forward in 2024 and Trump wins, and we have several years of Hillary Clinton saying it was illegal and it was illegitimate and blah, 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 the whole saga again. Are we going to see that number go down dramatically? Aren't all those 80%, 79% of Democrats going to suddenly go into the toilet and they're all going to say illegitimate? And so when you add them to the right that thinks that a lot of this stuff is problematic, that I think drops the number below 60%, maybe below 50%. So what happens when half the country thinks the elections are problematic? Not good. But I guess that's the trajectory we're on. We're asking ourselves if the White House is going to do anything to prepare for what might be a chaotic election night. Karine Jean Pierre is asked about election contingencies. You guys have been saying for a long time that the violent, extreme, ultra mega MAGAs are going to wreck the country, and elections are coming up. Do you have plans in case things go a little bit awry?
Given the number of Republicans who have said they won't accept the results and just the unpredictability of this election compared to others, is the White House doing any contingency planning for election night or the day after? Just people not accepting results.
National Guards.
How are you guys thinking about that?
FBI
So
raids.
a couple of things. I've been asked about this before, and I want to be clear and say this again.
Okay.
Americans should feel free, safe. They should feel safe going to the polls. They should. And so this administration has taken the issue of threats to the safety of voters and election officials seriously since day one. And the federal government has been working alongside state and local election officials and law enforcement to take the necessary steps to keep people safe.
What does that mean?
And again, there are agencies across the government that is working on that every day.
But what does that mean? Agencies working to keep Americans safe as they are working through the polls? What agencies? Who's involved? FBI? They're not very good at keeping Americans safe. They were responsible for protecting the homeland on January 6th, weren't they? I mean, there were people saying there were going to be protests. They couldn't figure out how to protect the Capitol building. So I'm not sure who's working on the contingencies or what their plan is, but Karine Jean Pierre says that Americans will be kept safe. You'll be kept safe, whether you like it or not, over there at the White House. Federal judge ordering Truth Social posts. Posts were complied with, and we will continue to follow. Thank you for joining us. Why was the screen flashing? I don't know what that was. Thank you for joining us and subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. All right, my friends. And so that was our first segment on the federal judge. Now we also have Jim Jordan. He sent over, what was that? I don't see that on my end. I just saw that on the thing. Interesting. But we have a whole nother segment that we have to get into. Representative Jim Jordan and some people in the GOP demanding answers from Merrick Garland at the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and the FBI. Republicans have been sending letters for a very long time, not gotten very many answers. Even when the senators had Christopher Wray in front of them, in front of a committee hearing, Christopher Wray said, "Are we done here? I have a plane to catch. and he skedoodled on out of there. But if the Republicans win, some of that might change. At least that's what they're telling us. That's what they keep promising us. Well, first take a look at what Jim Jordan sent over to Merrick Garland, demanding a lot of documents. And we call this a preservation letter. This is saying, we're in charge soon. You better not be shredding your documents back there in your office there, Merrick, because we're coming in hot. We'll take a look at that before we check in with the White House and get their reaction to some of this. But there's also some questions and concerns from Democrats about the U.S. Capitol Police. You know, the Capitol Police have done a pretty bad job at protecting the Capitol. They had one job on January 6th, and they couldn't even do it. They knew there were going to be protesters there. There were offers to put the National Guard over there, and they had the FBI, the DOJ. They had all sorts of Capitol Hill police resources and all of the other police agencies, including the Metro PD and so on and so forth. There's a litany of them. It's the Capitol for crying out loud. But they also failed when they were supposed to protect Pelosi's house, evidently. And now that one of the J6 committee members, Zoe Lofgren, wants answers. We've got 2 letters from Congress to attend to. And let's get right into it, shall we? Representative Jim Jordan from the House of Representatives, the Judiciary Committee, sends a letter over to the DOJ, Attorney General Merrick Garland, drafted on November 2nd, 2022. He says, "Dear Attorney General Garland, we in the House are conducting oversight of the DOJ operations and actions concerning various matters. As part of this oversight, Republicans have sent letters to departmental components requesting documents and information on several issues. Footnote 1." And look at this footnote. This is how you know the government is so incredibly dysfunctional. You've got a bunch of legislators, all of these people here, look at them. Letter, this one came out June 8th, 2021. Another letter, November 18th, 2021, no response. Another one, February 17th, 2022, no response. Andy Biggs sends a letter. It goes over to Matthew Olson, DOJ, no response, May 30th, 2022. Jim Jordan sends one over April 27th, Department of Justice. Honorable Merrick Garland, no response. June 23, nada. August 15th, nada. October 7th, nada. Lot of footnotes because guess what? The DOJ and the FBI, they don't give a crap about what the Republicans want. It continues. They say, "We've been sending letters. My fingers are tired of sending letters. I know you're addressed by heart now." They say, including but not limited to the department's targeting of journalists with Project Veritas, the shuttering of the department's China initiative, the department's one-sided enforcement of the FACE Act, and the department's unprecedented raid on President Trump's residence. Our requests to you or your subordinates remain outstanding. The American people deserve transparency, writes Jim Jordan, and accountability from our most senior law enforcement official in the executive branch, you. And so committee Republicans intend to continue to examine these matters, including into the 118th Congress, which we're going to run, if you can't tell, if necessary. We reiterate our requests, which are itemized in the attached appendix and incorporated herein, and ask that you, as the custodian of all the department records, Merrick, produce the entirety of the requested material as soon as possible, but no later than November 16th. Don't hold your breath out there, America, in case you're wondering if this is going to happen. Don't hold your breath. But he says, furthermore, Merrick, this letter serves as a formal request to preserve. Love that. Oh, yes. Love those preservation letters, baby. Don't you even think about deleting one shred of data. If there's one bit out of place, I'm coming for your butt. All existing and all future records and materials in your possession relating to the topics that I've addressed in this letter below. You should construe this preservation notice as an instruction to take all reasonable steps to prevent the destruction or alteration, whether intentionally or negligently, of all documents, communications, and other information, including electronic information and metadata that are or may be responsive to this congressional inquiry. He's laying the framework for a big, fat, whopping, maybe select committee subpoena or something. We can only dream. This instruction includes all electronic messages sent using your official and personal accounts or devices, including records creating using text messages, phone-based message applications, or encryption software. We're coming in hot for you. Sincerely, Jim Jordan, ranking member. And of course, he copied the Honorable Jerry Nadler. Hopefully they can find him waddling around Congress. Now, this is everything that Jim Jordan wants. He says, I'm coming in hot, baby. And this is a summary of all the letters, right? This is what he demanded from all of the letters. And he's very nice about this. He says, here, let me just consolidate all of your failures for you. Jim Jordan completes the appendix, and you'll notice he says, outstanding oversight requests. We're in Congress. We do oversight. You're doing all sorts of oversight for illegitimate purposes. This one's legitimate. I'm on an actually legitimate committee here, the Judiciary Committee, and we made some oversight requests to you. You have failed to respond to those. The first request came out on June 8th, 2021. Over a year ago. That's a long time. You still haven't responded to that? Where you been? 1. Explain the Justice Department's current efforts to identify and prosecute individuals who assaulted Andy No, lovingly known as Andy NGO. Who assaulted Andy NGO? And how is your investigation of that going? And number 2, explain how the Justice Department, in coordination with other federal agencies, is working to prevent individuals from engaging in violence to impair Andy NGO when he's working doing his job under the freedom of the Constitution. Another letter from November 18th that was unanswered. Jordan says, Merrick Garland, I'd like you to explain when and how the FBI became aware of the diary purportedly belonging to President Biden's daughter, and describe when and why it opened an investigation into the matter. When did you know about that thing? About that Ashley Biden shower story, diary story? Jordan also wants copies of search warrants, affidavits, and all other supporting documents related to the James O'Keefe Project Veritas investigation. He wants to know about the legal predicate that the FBI used to raid James O'Keefe's home and go and do the same thing for other Project Veritas employees. He wants to know how the process was conducted when they got those subpoenas and when they made the decisions to go and conduct those raids. What steps did they take? How did the story and the information leak to the New York Times? Which one of your Department of Justice leakers is communicating with the media? And explain whether any official at the FBI is still investigating them. Now, those are the letters from 2021. We see that in 2022, we still have a lot outstanding. They want all documents referring to the new domestic terrorism unit within the National Security Division counterterrorism section. Remember this DVE stuff, HVE, homegrown domestic violent extremism, ultra mega-MAGA, insurrectionary, destroyer of democracies? That division you created? Yeah, we got a lot of questions about them. All documents and communications about employees at that agency. An explanation as to why entirely you decided to establish this office in contravention to prior advice of career officials. The DOJ has already considered this before. They decided we don't need a domestic terrorism organization in this country. But Biden comes in and says, yeah, we do actually. As explanation as to whether you or your staff consulted lawyers before you did this, did you get a legal opinion or was this just Jake Sullivan's idea? An explanation whether the resources and personnel of this new terrorism unit is going to target concerned parents at schools or school board meetings. Quantify the number of personnel assigned to this new team. How many people are on this little board? And quantify the number of active domestic terrorism investigations, including by type and case, for the time between January 1, 2021 up until now. Love to know the answers to these questions. We saw Jill Sanborn, who's no longer there at the FBI, sit there with Matt Olson and run through her little mouth what I think are lies about Ray Epps and all this stuff. Oh, no idea. Before she says we can't comment on any of that, right? What are they doing that for? Who are they going after? March 30th, 2022. They are very busy over there at the FBI. As you know, the DOJ, right? They can't respond to congressional requests. They're way too busy focused on the insurrection and playing Where's Waldo, trying to identify everybody. But Jim Jordan says, well, I still have outstanding things I need from you. All documents related to the department's China initiative. An explanation as to whether you or your staff consulted with lawyers before you came up with this, and any resources dedicated to combating the threats posed by the PRC. In April, they wanted records about Portland, Oregon, and U.S. deputy marshals who were there, and how that property was defended by far-left rioters in the Summer of Love, the fiery but mostly peaceful protest that Kamala Harris supported through the bail release fund. Jordan wants information from June of this year. All documents related to the DOJ and the executive office of the president related to the harassment and intimidation outside of justices' homes, talking about Judge Kavanaugh, when the anti-abortion individuals were banging drums out there, trying to get him to change his opinion after the leaking of the Dobbs decision. Jordan wants all documents related to that investigation from Maryland and Virginia and the U.S. Attorney's Office. What were you guys doing about this? Were you investigating this? Jordan has a big request from August 15th, a letter. We've covered this one extensively. Jordan wants all documents related to the execution of a search warrant at Trump's residence. All documents relating to the decision to seek a search warrant for Trump's residence. Any information about confidential human sources used in Trump's residence. Similarly, all documents and communications between the DOJ, the FBI, and the president about the search. Any documents that went out between the DOJ, the FBI, and the Secret Service about the search. Similarly, with the National Archives, all relating to Trump's presidential raid. In October, they wanted answers about the Justice Department referring the Freedom of Access to Clinical Interests Act, charging people with crimes for that under that statute. Questions about the U.S. Attorney's Reproductive Rights Task Force. Asking about pregnancy resource centers and other attacks on the Hope Pregnancy Resource Center in Pennsylvania that occurred in June. Hey, Merrick, are you and your DOJ investigating those? We know that you're going and arresting pro-lifers. Are you going out there and arresting the criminal elements that are firebombing pregnancy centers? Are you looking into this? Let us know. Any communications from the FBI relating to the arrest of Mark Huck, who we've talked about here. Jim Jordan asking for a lot. And as you can see, the FBI is pretty backed up. It takes them several years to even respond to a fellow congressperson who's another government official. They just take their sweet time. But Jim Jordan is demanding that they send a response in his preservation letter, saying if this is not preserved, well, you might be in violation of all sorts of record-keeping laws and administrative act, APA, all sorts of stuff. And there will be repercussions coming for you. We are going to be in charge soon. When we are, we're coming in hot. And we're looking forward to what that looks like if the Republicans stay true to their word. Now, one of the issues that Republicans have seen and written letters about is this collusion between the Biden White House and big tech. We saw a lot of evidence in emails that Biden was sending emails to people at Facebook, at Google, at other big tech platforms, and doesn't seem like that's appropriate to be censoring American speech on key issues using the thumb of the federal government. Reporters asked Karine Jean Pierre, are you still doing that? Are you still censoring Americans by colluding with these big tech companies?
Jen Psaki said from that podium in summer of 2021, quote, "We are flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation." Can you tell us whether the White House is still flagging social media posts for disinformation, and are you submitting those to Facebook through a special portal?
Can you say a little bit more?
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
reporting
colluded with
in the
big tech.
Intercept
Okay.
about opportunities for the federal government to identify for social media companies different posts that contained what was perceived as misinformation about the origins of COVID, the vaccine, other things as well, such as Ukraine or the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Yeah, look, I'll say this, the administration, the Biden administration remains fully committed to our mission to protect the security
So,
and
yes.
resilience of our elections and safeguard election
Yep, we're
infrastructure.
still
That
doing it.
includes combating disinformation. That is
Yep.
something that we are committed to.
We're committed to it, all right. Are you still censoring us? Are you still flagging misinfo posts and sending them over to FBI? Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we're committed to it. I mean, obviously. Well, there was a report in The Intercept that sort of made it seem like you guys are big, fat censors, and that's kind of an illegal thing to do. Are you still doing that? Oh, yeah. We're committed to it. You better believe we're doing it. In fact, we're doing it harder. We're doing it even harder. Yeah, we're flagging more of them because there's more of them out there. And they're not even hiding it anymore. You better believe it. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So we'll see when the Republicans do take over if there is any actual oversight and what that looks like. But they're not the only ones that have questions. Zoe Lofgren from the January 6th Select Committee had some questions about the Paul Pelosi issue. He was attacked allegedly with a hammer by a crazed person that they said was a MAGA Republican. We learned that he wasn't. But people are wondering how that all happened because the Capitol Hill police are supposed to be involved to protect people who serve on Capitol Hill. And so Zoe Lofgren has questions about this. Writing to the chief of the United States Capitol Police, Zoe Lofgren has questions about Paul Pelosi and the assault that took place at his residence. She says, "Dear Chief Manger, as you know, in the early morning hours of Friday, October 28th, a man broke into the home of the Speaker of the House and viciously assaulted her husband, Paul Pelosi, causing injuries. The injuries are so severe that he had to undergo surgery. Public reports indicate police appeared at the home and entered the residence." Now, Zoe says, the San Francisco police, the FBI, and the U.S. Capitol Police are still investigating the attack. In addition to this, on October 28th, the U.S. Capitol Police, you people, issued a press statement about the incident that said, in part, special agents with the U.S. Capitol Police California Field Office quickly arrived on scene while a team of investigators from the department's threat assessment section was simultaneously dispatched from the East Coast to assist the FBI and the San Francisco police with a joint investigation. Recently, federal prosecutors charged the suspected assailant with counts that make clear the Department of Justice believed the attack targeted the speaker's home specifically because of her position. According to the criminal complaint, Zoe Lofgren says, prosecutors believe the suspect assaulted Pelosi with the intent to retaliate against the official for the performance of her duties, and that he had zip ties, rope, and at least one hammer with him when he spoke into the home. Using similar language, she says, to some of those who attacked the Capitol on January 6. He specifically asked for where the speaker was, which is what they said on January 6. Where's Pelosi? Where's her podium? I'm going to take control of the country. The suspect also said that he intended to hold the speaker hostage, that he viewed her as the leader of the pack, and that he was going to show other members of Congress that there was going to be consequences. Now, Zoe Lofgren, conflating these two things, says, moreover, on October 28th, the Department of Homeland Security, same day, right, that this happened, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, National Counterterrorism Center, and the U.S. Capitol Police issued a joint guidance the same day that he got attacked called Domestic Violent Extremist Threat Environment, probably heightened during the election cycle. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So if they're gonna have, an incident, they probably, it also makes sense for them to warn about the incident. It just sort of matches. It's like, oh, perfect. Well, we'll do both of them at the same time. According to that joint guidance, those entities assess that domestic violent extremists pose a heightened threat to the midterm elections, but violence will largely be dependent on drivers like personalized ideological grievances and accessibility of potential targets throughout the cycle. The guidance further says, the most plausible type of DVE threat is posed by lone offenders who leverage election-related issues to justify the violence. And notices that the election F word is the biggest problem related to 2020 that continues to contribute to the radicalization of some DVEs. Okay. Even though we haven't, as far as I've seen, any evidence that this guy's even mentioned the 2020 election at all, nor that he's an ultra MAGA extremist. In fact, we got the opposite opinion from his neighbor, which we covered yesterday on the show. She said, pretty sure he's a lefty, all sorts of support for BLM and gay rights. And based on the flags and the hippie commune environment that he seems to be living in, it is hard to believe that he's an ultra mega MAGA. This incident and related circumstances, including the manner in which the speaker and her family were targeted, raises significant security concerns for me. Zoe saying, I'm freaked out, man. I'm a representative. If Nancy Pelosi can get somebody in her bedroom with a hammer, Zoe's like, I'm not even Speaker of the House, okay? I'm just on a J6 committee. I need to know that I'm safe. So I've got some questions for you people. This incident and related circumstances, including the manner in which the speaker was targeted, raises significant questions about security protections for members of Congress. And that's why I have questions for you. She says, the department said in a public statement that agents with the U.S. Capitol Police quickly arrived on scene. Now, Zoe says, on December 9th, U.S. Capitol Police and the Sergeant-at-Arms briefed a committee on heightened threats to members of Congress, including the Speaker of the House. During that briefing, we asked you for your goals and your standard operating procedures on how you deal with these types of threats. Has the U.S. Capitol Police adopted a written strategic plan, including any benchmarks for protecting us at your regional field offices? If so, let us know. If you have a plan, were those followed on this day when Nancy Pelosi's husband was allegedly attacked? Did you come up with a procedure? And if so, did you follow those procedures? I'd like to see them and whether you followed them. The committee, she says, understands that the FBI offered to have U.S. Capitol Police officers who are detailed in San Francisco assigned on this. Is that accurate? Why did the U.S. Capitol Police decline this offer? Did the U.S. Capitol Police discuss this with the police board? Are you turning down recognizing criminal terrorist investigations? And if so, why? Public reporting has discussed the role of the San Francisco police in responding to the attack. Do you have any mutual aid agreements with them? Very interesting questions here. Are there any arrangements between the U.S. Capitol Police Field Office and any San Francisco Police Department agency where you guys do like joint training or you coordinate on these responses? She says that the Speaker of the House and the President pro tem are in the presidential line of succession. And so have you codified a policy to protect the Speaker of the House? She says, prior to the October attack, did the U.S. Capitol Police receive input about any security requirements suggested by the Secret Service? These are all basically general questions. Other entities have reviewed the protocols that the department has created. Have you incorporated anything from January 6th into your current response? I appreciate your prompt consideration of these important questions, and I look forward to your response. Drafted by Zoe Lofgren, chairperson from the House Administration Committee. A little bit concerned that the Capitol Police maybe aren't going hard enough after the MAGA insurrectionists questioning, why didn't you actually, move forward with these other alternatives to sort of elevate your capabilities? Demanding answers. We'll see if they respond. I doubt it. But that was Zoe Lofgren demanding answers. And we have another clip from Karine saying it's not all it's not all Republicans. Biden and the White House have long criticized Republicans, especially those close to Trump, as being big problems for Americans, wrecking their economic security, jeopardizing their safety. But now here's Karine Jean Pierre being asked from Peter Doocy whether it's all Republicans or just a specific subset. Let's see how that goes.
Thank you, Karine. Following up on your comment that there's an alarming number of Republicans who are saying they're not going to accept election results. Does that mean President Biden thinks it is a threat to democracy if somebody votes Republican?
No, that's a ridiculous question. No.
Why is that a ridiculous question?
Because American people should have their right to vote for whomever they want. The voting is a sacred right. It is something that the president wants to protect at every turn, and he has done that. He's taken actions to protect the right to vote. And
what's he done?
And you see Democrats in Congress also doing the work to protect the right to vote. We are talking about Mega-MAGA Republican officials who have been very clear about this, who say they are pro-police, but then they are also pro-insurrectionists. That is, you cannot be pro-police and be pro-insurrectionist. Who also say,
who is pro-insurrectionist out there? Are there any Republican candidates that are like, I love to overthrow countries. That's my vote. I'm on the overthrow America ticket. That's not what anybody has said.
They want to defund the FBI.
That's true.
A problem.
That is true.
That is a problem that we are seeing.
Idea.
And who I've said have
Great
been
idea.
very clear that they have been very clear about pushing and peddling the big lie, peddling dangerous conspiracy theory. And so that's what we're talking about. But the American people have their right to make a decision on who they want to represent them, and they should be allowed to do so.
Okay.
They are voting. Your boss, President Biden, came out and called them extreme MAGA and called them threats. So you can say that it's not the entire Republican Party, but if, 60% of the Republican Party, let's say conservatively, if they sort of align themselves with Trump or some of those Trump ideas, well, it kind of feels like you're calling the majority of the Republican Party extremists then. They can't have it both ways. They're trying to categorize the entire Republican Party and then say they're not doing it. Of course, they are doing it. It's disgusting behavior, but that's what we've devolved to from this administration because they've got nothing else to talk about. They've got no victories. So instead, all they do is fake it, essentially. Karine Jean Pierre, soon enough, the Republicans will be back in charge, and we'll see what Jim Jordan and the rest of them do. Of course, we'll continue to follow. Thank you for joining us wherever it is you're watching this, and thank you for liking this video. Before we move on. All right, we've got one final segment left before we wrap it up on the day. And we're going to get right into it because Liz Cheney's going full Democrat. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Cheers. Cheers. We're taking a parchment break so our mouths do not get parched. Cheers. We've got some bubbly today. Lime. Lime is the flavor. Before we wrap up our final segment and then jump into the locals after party, got to make sure that we're not parched. All right, my friends, let's get right into it. Liz Cheney, a so-called self-identified Republican, not true. She goes full Democrat. We know what that looks like. We're going to listen to her today say why she can't support certain Republicans. She says she's a Republican, but she doesn't support almost any of them, starting with Tim Ryan. Liz Cheney does not like J.D. Vance in Ohio. Very close race, big important one, might change the balance of power in the Senate. And so Liz Cheney, who self-identifies as a Republican, a good Republican, somebody who wants conservative principles to succeed, wouldn't she support the conservative candidate, J.D. Vance, in a very important race? Obvious, right?
So who do you prefer in this race? I would not vote for J.D. Vance.
Oh, guess not.
So if you were a Buckeye State voter, you'd be voting for Tim Ryan? I would. Okay.
That's weird because Tim Ryan's a Democrat. Liz Cheney's a Republican. Feels like she's kind of playing for the other team on that, even though she says that's not true. Okay, well, maybe it's just that one individual. It's only just, one race. Is that right? Or maybe not. Liz Cheney was also in Arizona. Arizona, another hotly contested race. Kari Lake, Blake Masters. Certainly they would want the support of a fellow Republican named Liz Cheney. She says, I'm a Republican. You can trust me. I'm good for conservative ideals, except when it comes to these candidates.
I also think it's important for us as Republicans to demand from our Republican leaders that they not accept this unraveling of the democracy, to demand that people, people should not come here. Glenn Youngkin should not come here and campaign for Kari Lake.
Oh.
Ted Cruz, who absolutely knows better, absolutely knows that what he's advocating is unconstitutional, that what she's saying is unconstitutional. They know it. And as Republicans, there have to be consequences. And we have to make sure that people understand that we're going to vote for those that we can trust and depend on to do the right thing and to uphold their oath.
Liz Cheney is smearing everybody. She's demanding a litmus test, drawing a line in the sand. If you don't comport with her idea of what the Republican Party should be, you are an enemy. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're Glenn Youngkin and you support Kari Lake, you're just as bad as Kari Lake. If you're Ted Cruz and you support any idea that Liz Cheney disagrees with, you're just as bad as an insurrectionist. The list goes on and on and on. And Joe Biden made the similar argument about Ron DeSantis, called him Trump incarnate. Okay, it's not about Trump. Trump has made this point, said it's about everybody. They're just starting with me. I'm just the biggest dog at the show right now. But as soon as they take me out, if that is something that happens, they're turning all of that same energy, all of that bigoted, xenophobic, you're a racist, patriarchal, you hate all of that. They're just going to pick it right up of Trump, turn it right over to Ron, turn it right over to Glenn Youngkin. Doesn't matter who it is. They're going to just pick it up and move it over. It's never been about this. And Liz Cheney, the facade is finally starting to crumble. Okay, she was an insurrectionist like acolyte. It's all she talked about. But now it's Kari Lake. Now it's J.D. Vance. Now it's Ted Cruz. Now it's Glenn Youngkin. Why? Because she's running for president, obviously. And she needs to start distinguishing herself more than just being an anti-Trump person. Now, Liz Cheney thinks she's being effective, and she is being effective to some degree. After Liz Cheney said that she does not endorse Kari Lake, something very interesting happened. Everybody decided to go and donate to Kari Lake.
Is that true?
That's true. Liz Cheney now is officially my biggest fundraiser to date. We've raised $500,000 since she did the anti-endorsement, and people are still flocking to our website, karilake.com, and donating. It's been an incredible boom for us in fundraising. So I got to extend a big thank you to Liz. And
thank you, Liz.
At this rate, Tucker, we might have to invite her to our inaugural ball because we're going to have to thank her for bringing in so much fundraising money for us.
Well, but you'd think it's a little weird since she is a congresswoman still from Wyoming. She's got a lot of hobbies. She could be planning a new invasion of Somalia or something, but she's attacking you. She's very focused on you. Why? Why is that, do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I think the same reason I'm being attacked by the media. I'm speaking the truth. I mean, you talked about it in your monologue tonight. We can't talk about all these issues because the media has told us they're prohibited. You can't talk about vaccines. You can't talk about elections. You can't talk about Paul Pelosi, and now you can't talk about Nancy Pelosi, and you can't talk about the elections, and you can't talk about COVID, and I'm talking about all those things because I still believe we have a little bit of the First Amendment left, but I'm dangerous to people like Liz Cheney and the folks that she hangs out with, and they want to stop people like me.
That's right. Liz Cheney wants everybody shutting their mouths unless they fall into line, but it doesn't seem like it's working. People voted her out of office by 40%, and now people are doing the opposite of what she wants. And so we'll see how her election endorsement record goes after the midterms hit. We'll see whether J.D. Vance ekes it out, whether Kari Lake wins. Looks like she will. But speaking of Kari Lake, she was here in Arizona with Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, who we've covered, of course, been at the center of a lot of the Biden administration's inquisition, charged, convicted with crimes, sentenced to prison, standing on the stage with Kari Lake saying Arizona is at a turning point and the country starts here.
Next Tuesday, Arizona has a rendezvous with destiny. Why do you think all the world's media is here? from Japan and England and Germany, right? The New York Times, the Washington Post, all of them. Why do you think they're here?
Energy, baby. It's here.
It started here.
That's right.
Back in November of 2020, it started right here.
That's right.
And it's going to end right here.
That's right.
Divine providence works in mysterious ways. Arizona has a rendezvous with destiny next Tuesday.
That's right.
Kari Lake wasn't in the government at that time. She was a media and a TV anchor and a news person. Abe Hamadeh was a captain in the Army, right? You had Blake Masters was a venture capitalist. Eli Crane, others, they were either serving their country. They weren't politicians. They saw something that they need to come and set right. They have dedicated their lives, not just to, in their sacred honor, not just to Arizona, but to the entire country. That's why they're all here. This has never happened before in American history, ever. Kari Lake and her whole ticket come to this, and they don't owe anybody anything except the people.
Except for you, America. That's right. And you, Arizona. And so Kari Lake is seemingly on a glide path to victory, but not with any complacency. Everybody get out there and do your part to vote, 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 of course. Now we've got Hillary Clinton, who is trying to squeeze what she can out of the Paul Pelosi saga. Everything is Trump's fault. All the rhetoric, MAGA, mega, ultra, maniac, whatever. Hillary Clinton trying to milk as much as she can out of the Paul Pelosi attack and smear the entire Republican Party, blaming it, of course, on that rhetoric.
This midterm election, we've seen a lot of ads by Republicans running for everything, touting crime. Crime is the issue. But when an 82-year-old man is attacked by an intruder in his own home, they don't seem to be too bothered by that, because
everybody
that person is
that.
married to the Speaker of the House, who's of a different political party. I just want your viewers, and really I would like every American, just to stop and think about that. This is the kind of violent rhetoric that leads to violent action, that props up authoritarians, and that's unfortunately what we see the Republican Party today supporting.
Republican Party supports raising up authoritarians with their rhetoric. Yeah. Wasn't she the person who just said previously that Republicans are stealing 2024? We just played the clip of her. So she's using the same language that the Republicans are using, but it's okay when she does it. She's not looking too good there either. So, things get rough for, they know what's coming, and they're not too happy about it. But that, my friends, is Liz Cheney going full Democrat, so we don't even have to doubt it anymore. Of course, we'll continue to follow. Election is just right around the corner. We're hoping that you're getting out there and making your voice heard with your votes. We'll continue to cover it. Thank you for joining us as we do so, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, my friends, that is it for us on the segments today. And we covered a lot, boy. We covered some pretty disturbing news out of, Arizona. That federal judges are ordering people to do social media posts now at the hands of Democracy Docket, it sounds like. Jim Jordan saying Republicans are going to be in charge soon enough, and there will be hell to pay when they are there. They've got a lot of preservation letters out and demanded. Liz Cheney goes full Democrat. And Kari Lake says, thank you for the fundraising. But that is it for us. Now, we are going to go over and do a little bit of an after party with our locals community. And so if you want to join us, that's over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And I think we're about to just go on over there. Let me do a quick refresh and see if we got any activity in the chat here today before we wrap up the program, doing a couple refreshes. All right. And I think that we're pretty much done. All right. Let me check over. Let's see what's going on. Let me give some shout outs to the chat. We've got Rumble over there. Shout outs to Ubuk, Anything, Eric Scorpio, Army Brad is over there. We have LB Blanny, Lil Galaxy 56 is in the house. Memesis, member of the public, also over there. Let me see if there's any, Rob, can you address that question? What question? This is a locals question. Let me see this one. Zach. What's the question, Zach? Why do the DC police have offices in so many American cities? Good question, Zach. We've talked about this previously. You know, some time ago, there was a new order, right, from I think it was after January 6th, where they said that they were going to open up in the actual CHPD offices, Capitol Hill Police offices in several locations. It's just Congress, right? Congress just said, do it. You have authority to go do it now. And why? Well, I think the answer is pretty obvious, is because they would be very happy with a federal sort of Capitol police force, you know, that they control that reports to the Capitol. So I think it's very disturbing, but that's what they're doing. But all right, that's it, my friends, for us. We are going to wrap it up right there. I want to remind you before we go on over to locals that I am a criminal defense lawyer at the R&R Law Group. We're located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And so if you happen to know anybody who is charged with a crime in our beautiful, great state, we would love the opportunity to help. Any type of criminal offense. It can be pretty minor. We have criminal speeding, we have reckless driving, we have suspended license criminal charges, aggressive driving, all of that stuff. But really where we shine is the more serious offenses, felonies, drug offenses, DUIs, domestic issues, all sorts of misdemeanors, everything in between we can help you with. 480-787-0394. We're very passionate about the work that we do. Our mission is to help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their cases, but beyond that, in their lives. And we appreciate your referrals. They really do keep us busy. They keep us here together. It sort of is a beautiful symbiotic relationship we have, and I'm grateful for you sending people who we can help our way. And before we wrap up, thank you to the mods who mod down the fort for us. Shout outs go to Vientikis Prime, K-Bean, Just Cause, Lean. We've got Playin' Hooky, I see in the house. Ronnie Cole, Zulu. Gio was over here. He swung by, along with Henry Dixon from time to time. Shout out to our members in the YouTube chat. We've got Scott Lado, Curtis Bartle, Cool Guy 2022, all in the house. I'm grateful for you guys and being members over there, getting those walk and talks and a couple of other things. Thank you, Scott. Good to see you guys. But all right, my friends, that is it for us for the day. We are going to be back here tomorrow to do it all again. And I hope to see you right here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow, unless you go over to locals. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.